Hello, if you don't know me, I'm Jenna with Later But Louder, and I've been sharing my journey through midlife, my midlife crisis, which was actually the biggest midlife crisis yet because, see, I had already thought that I had gone through my midlife crisis and dealt with it and done all these things. And so I've been sharing my story into kind of when I was at my lowest moment of midlife crisery, whatever you call it. Um, just because, and I make light of it, but I have just decided to start recording where I'm at because I know there's got to be other women that are feeling this way too. And so if you've missed my other previous videos, I'll link to them below where I shared the previous parts. Because today I'm kind of going to go into the previous parts talked about where I was at and where the struggle was. And yeah, I'm just going to pick up where I left off. I had gone to visit my younger daughter, who lived several hours away. Excuse me. And I was getting offers to buy my house, and I didn't know where I would go. During my visit to my daughters, I got a surprise. Rather than remain in the house they had been renting, she and her husband were in the market to buy. I spent the next couple of days walking through potential houses with them. I remember thinking once again, everyone gets to move on with life but me. And I think that's where we left off on the last video. I was asking if you've ever felt this way, you've ever felt stuck like where I was, because this was a breaking moment for me. And I I just want you to see through this series of videos that I've recorded this is chapter one of my manuscript that I'm writing, that there is hope, that it doesn't have to be, you don't have to stay in this place that we're at here. And I understand if you're watching this and you're not to the point that I'm going to talk about next. However, I do want you to realize that there is hope. And by telling my story, see that as I've said in the other videos, relate to where you're at and how much of a struggle it was. I mean, I was really lost at this time in life and just kind of like, where do I fit in? Where is my place? Where do I go from here? All that stuff. So the point I want you to see is that even though I was stuck in this place, I want you to remember that I did eventually get out. And that's what I'm going to kind of go into next. And that it was one big thing that pushed me over the edge. In your case, that may be different. It may be a lot of little things that cause change in your life where you just get fed up enough to say, I'm not going to take this anymore. But I also, even though it was a big thing, there were also many little things, as you saw in the previous videos, that led up to it. So I will move on here. That trip, looking at houses with my daughter and her family, was the final nail in the coffin for me. Things had been building up for years, and now I'd finally had it. I was no longer going to sit idly by and let life happen to me. While I was still at the airport, I called one of those ugly houses places and arranged for them to come look at the house and give me an estimate. The ugly house guy came and made an offer right on the spot, which I accepted as he coaxed me into the vision that this was an opportunity to start over and to create a new life for myself. I would have enough to pay off my mortgage in full and move ahead. It was a high pressure sale to be sure, but I let myself be pressured. Nothing sounded more appealing to me than the opportunity to start fresh elsewhere. Before I knew it, I'd signed my house away. I had to be out in 30 days with no plan of where I would go. And so this is something that I really want to highlight as a truth, is that sometimes we take big steps to move forward. When we move forward, it's hard, it's scary, we do it. And then we're like, oh my gosh, what did I do? What did I do? And then it comes together and we're like glad we did it. But then the thing we feared happens. The next thing, the next shoe drops, the next thing falls that we have to put into place. And so it is kind of like a process. Um, so I had already talked about it to the daughter I had just visited. None of my children felt an attachment to the house that might make them or me regret my decision to leave. In fact, ever since they had left it behind, they had been encouraging me to do the same. I spoke with my daughter and her family. Now, this is my other daughter. So I had gone to visit my younger daughter, and now I was talking to my older daughter and her family. For quite some time, we had half joked about the notion of buying a duplex where I could live next door to them. We began to wonder, could we make that prospect a reality? And so I was once again looking at houses, this time with my other daughter and her family. Unlike before, when it was from a bystander perspective, this was for my own future. It was more than envisioning possibilities for myself. I'd sold my house. They wanted me out of it, in fact. I needed to find somewhere to go. If not a new house, I would have to move into an apartment. The act of contacting that place forced me into action. Now, I don't know if you've ever sold your house to one of those ugly houses, people, but what happens is they come look at your house, they appraise it, they tell you, like, here's how much you could get for it. And then they make you an offer on the spot. And so it's like, take it or leave it. Now, so you think, why would somebody do that instead of a realtor? Well, doing it that way, you don't have to do repairs, you don't have to get it ready, you don't have to show it to people and go through all that stuff. And at the time I did it, it just seemed like a really good way to just quick move on. And in a lot of ways, I mean, it was quick. I'll put it that way. It was quick. Because like I said, it was instantaneous and they were basically like, we'll write the check and you tell us how quickly you can leave. And so once I did that, it set this chain of action into motion. And basically what it did was make me have to take action. And I guess that is the thing that had been missing for all this buildup, all this time before, was that I wanted change, but I didn't know how to make change happen. And at least in my case, things had to get unpleasant enough for me to really push me into action and do something that would would force change on me. And you might be in the same boat where things are like really unhappy for you, really like you don't know how the next phase of life looks. And you just need some big action. I'm not saying go sell your house to the ugly house people, but you look at it this way, like if you don't have a push like this happen for you, will you take action? I don't know. I don't know that I would have if I hadn't had the pressure of here's your money, you need to be out quick. And I mean, it was, I don't remember how long, like within a week. Well, no, within a month. I think it was they wanted me out within a month. And I was explaining that I didn't have anywhere to go. So they said they could extend it as far as that, but they didn't want to do it any further than that. So it forced me into action. More than that, in hindsight, it seemed like the deciding action that would be my determining fate. Once I knew what I wanted, I fought like hell to make it happen. Although a good duplex in our preferred location was not available, we did find the perfect house for us all, with a layout that separated my living area from theirs. It's the perfect living situation for all of us. And it's not just the arrangement. The house it's situated is situated away from many neighbors, just like I wanted. It's secluded and a little quirky and off the beaten path, much like me. It has the large, secluded yard we all desired. Even more than that, it affords me the lifestyle I want. We will pay off the house that will someday become theirs. I can leave on travels and adventures without worrying about who will watch the house or care for my animals. I live in my property separately from them, but I should add that. I live in my property separately from them, but we still connect daily, and it allows me to feel far less isolated in my current situation. So that was how change was forced. And it's funny how once I decided I had to take action and I was just determined to take that action, things came together for me. And it was it was kind of instant how it all came together, but it was also the end result of several years. I mean, obviously, if I hadn't worked and saved and had another house and had all those other pieces in place, I wouldn't have been able to just go get a house, right? If I hadn't already known for years that I wanted to live in a house with a lot of land, and away from neighbors because of my previous experience, then I wouldn't have, I don't think I would have found where I'm at now, which is all of those things that I wanted. The yard, the huge yard and the even the layout of the house. I wish you could see it, how I have my own section of the house and they have their own section of the house, and then we share the kitchen and the living room. And I can literally have my isolation and I work from home, which is another whole thing I'll get into because I also realized that as part of this whole process, just like I was talking about not too long ago, things go great. I put all the pieces in place. I got what I wanted, and then something new hit. And that new thing was a job change. And my job became, I started I started making changes in my life with this, right? This was the huge catalyst that put me over the edge. But then I started finding something really interesting happen, which was once I did that and once I made this happen and got in this new house, I suddenly started looking at all these other things in life that I was no longer willing to put up with. And I don't know if it's a midlife thing. I think it is. You just get to a point in midlife where you're just done with the things that don't work for your life anymore. And I really think it does have to do with being a woman at a certain time of life. I was in perimenopause when this happened. Well, as I finally got into menopause, it's a whole nother story. But the closer I got and when I actually got there, like I went from being like fed up with things to just done, where I was just no longer going to put up with the things that did not work for my life. And so after I got settled in my new house and everything was going okay, the next thing to take the axe to was my job. And it was, another realization that it's like, oh, I had everything settled, everything was great. And then, whoops, there's something new in life to have to overcome. And I won't share that. That's in a different chapter. But I wanted to share this with you to let you know that change is possible. And there is the possibility you can always change your life. Like I said, my changes were the culmination of Um, Lots of preparation mixed with opportunity, mixed with a little bit of impulsiveness. And when it comes to the job change, because I had this change in residence, I have the ability to, with my job now, do what I love to do and work from home. So it all kind of comes together that now I'm totally living life on my terms, like what I want to be doing, like working out of my house and this house that I love with this backdrop that I love. I know you can't see it, but like it's it's where I want to be. So I would ask you today, like, where do you want to be with your life? And you may not even realize or know what changes you want to be making for your life. And so that's why I want you to go down in the description and download my midlife reinvention kit, as I call it. Because I want you to, it gives you, it's free, and I want you to think about some of the exercises in there are geared toward looking at where your life is now and where you would like it to be headed. And it's especially good if you don't really know where you want it to be headed. One good place is to look at where you're at now and kind of take inventory, so to speak, on what's working and what's not working. And it helps you see the changes ahead. And maybe you can visualize things that you didn't see as a possibility before. Like, that saying, like, um, if you aim at nothing, you'll hit your target every time. So a lot of times at midlife, we women are aiming at nothing and we're hitting our target every time. And I feel like that whole journey I was on in the previous videos, for a long time, I was aiming at nothing. I should have been okay with where I was at. I was like, I have a house. I can like try to save up and repair what needs to be fixed and all this. But I wasn't happy. I wasn't really living life on my terms. And I didn't really go into this in the manuscript, but I do with this other chapter that I'm adding about the job is the fact that I was just running myself ragged. So I didn't get to be at home anyway. I was just going out and working and trying to make money the best I could, but I wasn't truly happy. And until I really identified the changes that I wanted to make for my life, I was just spinning my wheels, aiming at nothing. And so as soon as the target became clear and I started to hit the target, and then that's when things changed in my life for in a big way. Because like I said, now I'm in a great place. I'm able to be in a setting that I never thought was possible. It's everything I wanted for my life. But I didn't, in a lot of ways, I never even thought it was possible. So that's a lot of what I want to encourage through this this video, the kit down below that I hope you'll download, and future videos, and talking to you, is what is your what is your mindset? Because as the saying goes, like whether you think you can or think you can't, you're right. Have you ever heard that before? A lot of us just think we can't or assume we can't. And so we limit ourselves. And I instead want to encourage you to think about this being a new chapter in life. And like you, I was once feeling like it was the end. There was nothing to look forward to. But I came to a different conclusion and I started making efforts to change what my life looked like once I gave myself permission to do that. And your change might not be, my situation might be a nightmare to other people, like living with your kids and your grandkids. To me, it's perfect, and it's it's what we both wanted, what they wanted, what I wanted. That may not be the same situation as you, but that doesn't mean that you can't identify new versions of supports in your life, new ways of being close with family, um, different ways of finding life fulfillment and joy in life, like maybe you've lost sight of over the years. And so that's what I want to talk about moving forward. I hope that you found it helpful to hear about my journey. And, my manuscript is more or less finished. I'm still kind of filling in some places, but I encourage you to tell me what you'd like to hear about because in this manuscript, I've got a process for living life to the fullest, and I share it with you in there. So let me know if you want me to go into that in a future video, and I will. It's called the Foley formula, and each letter is an acronym for different things to do to be able to truly embrace life in midlife and live it on your best terms. If you want to hear about it, let me know in the comments. And if you're not ready to hear about it, then let me know that too. There's a little bit about that in that midlife reinvention kit. So I encourage you to download that as well. And yeah, just let me know what your thoughts are. What did you think of my journey? Um, I kind of go into, how it takes action to get the things we want in life. And so that's it for this video. And I want this to be a dialogue between us. And I want to know your thoughts based on my story. I feel a little vulnerable putting it out there, but here it is, You've seen 3 parts of it now. When I was at my lowest and when things got even worse, and then when I decided it was time to make changes. And so please download my kit and think about whether it's time to make changes in your life as well. And let me know your thoughts, and I'll see you in the next video.